So here we are at Kullihoma. It's where some of you call home.
Yes.
So tell me about Kullihoma.
Well, it was a school, Indian school, long time ago. And I used to go to school here. And it went to the 8th grade. We had a white man to be a teacher, so he wouldn't let us speak Chickasaw, and especially if we was in the class, but I did. And so that I was getting in trouble all the time because I was always
Geneva?
was speaking in Chickasaw. I was 6 years old. This was the first school that I went to, and so there was a whole bunch of Chickasaw kids, and so I thought, well, I could talk to them. And I did. That's all we knew was how to speak Chickasaw. We didn't know how to speak English. And so I thought, well, why won't he let me talk? Because I was 6 years old, and all of these others are Chickasaws, and I was used to talking to them because we came up here, and a lot of these kids was my relative. And we had a hard time, me and my sister both, because we both didn't know how to speak English. And then that was the first year too. So, and we didn't have no kindergarten or nothing to start. So that's all we knew was how to speak Chickasaw.
What are some of the things that you've learned that's been passed down from generation to generation? Like you learned from your parents?
Number one thing with me said, don't speak Chickasaw. When you go to school, it's okay.
That's why a lot of time, my mom and them, her in Geneva, they didn't go to school. They'd miss all the time because they didn't want to go to school. They couldn't talk.
I had a better advantage because I'm the younger one. And my sister and her are about nearly the same age.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell off on you.
Lucille.
We was in a language meeting, and she said, she was talking about she was mean, and she was talking about herself, and she said, they used to call me Kullihoma Bear, because she would fight everybody down here. And then they called my second sister, they called her Joe Louis, because she used to whip kids. But anyway, no.
It was
Kullihoma Bear.
Kullihoma and Joe Louis.
Leon Brown's the one, his daddy's the one started that, and he said, we will call you Kullihoma Bears if you don't quit fighting up there. And so they did. So they. Everybody right here started calling me Kullihoma Bear.
Virginia, how old were you when you learned to speak English?
4. I wasn't even in school. She was talking about one of her relatives. He was married to a non-Indian. And so they just lived, just cut across to that little pasture, and then they lived there. And all the children, they spoke. Their dad is Chickasaw, but English was the #1 language. So I used to play with them kids. And then, just like she said, they had to speak English in school. But at that time, my brother-in-law come into our family, and all he spoke was English. So my sister said, it was kind of funny. You're the only one at home, and so you were speaking English. They come in, I'm the only kid speaking English. That kind of sounds funny, doesn't it? But yeah, that's why I had better advantage. I already knew how to speak the language because I was born in white man's hospital in Valley View. First language I heard was English.
So did you all grow up singing the hymns, our tribal hymns?
I did. We sang. That's all we'd sing.
I did. That's how I learned.
We even prayed in Chickasaw, and them days, everybody, that's all they taught. You go visit somebody or even have a church. Well, everybody on church ground was talking in Chickasaw. And so even preaching in Chickasaw.
When I grew up, I started singing when I was about 7. My daddy, we'd come down here, and that's how I learned how to start singing Chickasaw, Choctaw songs, because Chickasaw, we had no songs. It was all Choctaw songs.
So do you remember, Virginia, anything about any of our dances, the Pashofa dance or stickball or anything like that?
I remember one. I was, like I said, I was a little girl. And, okay, the schoolhouse was down here below. And the people lived right up on that hill. Somebody was sick. And so like I said, I was just a little girl. And I was laying on a pallet. And they were out there dancing. I just woke up and see what was going on, just went back to sleep. And I didn't know what it was all about, because I remember walking up there and everything, and they was talking about it. There was Pashofa. Well, this is going on. The Indian doctor was doctoring it or something, because that no one ever explained to me or anything, but I do. That house used to be up there.
But Bicey lived down here, and she was
she lived
an
right
Indian doctor, too.
Down here.
She was really good.
She was an Indian doctor. And when she get through doctoring, that's when she would have her stomp dance. And I just seen I just seen came up here a few times, and my grandpa was an Indian doctor, so I went. We would go to his house, and he lived close to Allen there, and he would doctor on people.
Hochifonata.
Jonah.
Jonah?
John Alexander, but
Yeah.
Indian call him Janu, for an
Janu
Indian name.
Alexander?
Then we call him Jonah.
So did everybody come to him for a
Yeah,
doctor?
but whenever they were sick, well, they would go to his house, and he would doctor on them. I know he used to go out in the woods and get his medicines out there, and then he would boil the herb medicines and put them in bottles, all different kind of medicine. They would get the roots, and boil it. And I know we used to call that broomweed, and we used to sweep the floor, our floor with that. And my daddy made a broom out of that broomweed. And we used to use that as a broom and sweep the yard. And where we sprinkle it with water and put it in the house, well, our dirt floor would be just shining, and it was real hard. And then by the end of the day, well, it'd make dirt, So every morning, when we get up, well, we'd have to sweep in our house, and then out in the yard too, just like we sweeping, and we'd have a clean yard.
She was talking about Bicey. My daddy had to come see her one time, and he had a sore behind his neck, and so he wanted to go see Bicey, and I was there I remember when she cut him in the back, right there on his sore. And I remember it looked like just like a X, like that on his neck. Because he went to a white doctor, they didn't know what's wrong with him. She cut it with a glass. I remember that.
Yeah.
And right on his neck, and it wasn't long. That weekend, it was healing.
Tell him some things he's missed out on because of...
Well, number one things, we had horses too, didn't we? We rode horses.
Oh, yeah.
Bareback and everything. Fall off the horse and get back on.
I had a saddle because, in fact, I bought a second-handed one first before I bought the new one, and every Sunday, well, that was our thing to do every Sunday afternoon. And me and my brother, Cody, his name was Cody, and so he had a horse, and so my daddy went and bought him the saddle. So when my mother passed away, well, she had left us money, so the Indian agent used to keep the Indians' money, and then they had to go see the agent every second Wednesday of each month to go get their money. And so but my daddy appointed us a guardian, and so he the one would buy us clothes, like, you know, when we needed. And then, so he went and bought me a horse. I wanted a horse, and I wanted a saddle, so he went and bought me a new saddle. So, I thought that was just it.
That's better than
That was
having
better than a car.
New car.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Because everybody was, you know, had horse and these saddles. And if you bought one, well, everybody out in the country would come out and look at your horse, look at your saddle, and we had to polish it up on Saturday. So on Sunday afternoon, well, everybody'd meet at Lula, and and it wasn't no paved. 48 wasn't paved, so it was gravel, and it was hard on those horses. But we would run them, have a race on 48 highway.
What's something that was just very valuable that you remember today that has helped you to be who you are, that your mother or your father or your grandparents, something they taught you or showed you or told you?
Mama would say, if you get into trouble and your aunt or your uncle or your elder get onto you, you listen to them. Don't talk back, you just listen to them. So that's how I learned. And then try to be nice to everybody. And so to this day, I can tell you, I don't know my colors. I don't know black, I don't know white, I don't know purple. Even if Geneva was green, I would still be her friend because she is God's creation too. So that's how come I have friends. It doesn't matter what tribe they are, nationality, or whatever they are. But I tell you, working down at Cultural Center, we get people from overseas. I just, I don't know what they're saying, you know. But they're doing their best to speak. And I just like talking to people. I enjoy people, you know. And I'm thankful that our parents taught us that.
Thank
you. Know,
you.
To be nice to people. How you treat people, you'll be treated just like that.
I know one thing they taught me was like going to church, you know, because I always went to church with them when I was small. And that's when I started learning how to sing. Because my daddy, we live in the city and we come back, and every time in the car, he starts singing Choctaw song. And I would just listen. And by the time we'd get there at the church, time to go to church, he'd say, all right, I'm gonna get my daughter to come up there. And I look at him and I go, like this. But I'm so glad that he taught me how to sing, because I was about 7, but every weekend we'd come. That's how I learned how to start singing. And he was a good singer. So, you know.
That's good.
I'm blessed.
How did you live without Google?
I don't even know what Google is. I know it's on the phone, but I don't know how to get in there.
I can't believe that.
You don't?
No.
You see? We didn't have no phone.
Yes, that's
did we?
just...
That was the only thing we had to do was just ride a horse. Because my daddy didn't even buy a car. I don't know why he didn't buy a car, but he didn't
Well,
even...
because you had the horse.
Groceries were real cheap. Bread was like a nickel.
Dang.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, that's.
And candy, the most sucker candy was like a penny.
Wow.
And so everything was real cheap.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming and for sharing, for listening, for teaching. I've really enjoyed. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about each of your families, and wow, we're older than Google.
Yeah.
So, thank you all very much.
You're
Okay.
welcome.